Greetings and salutations, everybody. Had a slight absence there. I was on vacation in the wonderful state of Colorado, but an exciting thing about being away from YouTube so long is you get this huge subscription list of things to catch up on, and it becomes like a whole day of a marathon. One video caught my eye. You may remember a few months ago, I had, in my hubris as a small fish, attempted to get the attention of the Justicar. And it was on a particular issue, and it's called the use of deadly force by police officers. Now, obviously with what's happened in Ferguson and a few other areas, and really a lot of other areas, but it just depends on what's in the national media spotlight, this has become a very contentious issue, and I like that Justicar found something to kind of poke at, but at the same time honestly critique. And it was a CNN article that this woman wrote that was very silly and very easy to laugh at some parts of, and also had some parts to take seriously. But see, this video that Justicar managed to spend a nice, very entertaining 13.5 minutes on was use of deadly force by police officers. And completely by accident, he sort of partially fulfilled my wish that I wanted to, and here's the rub right here, I wanted to end up on the iPhone in front of the whiteboard. So for the rest of this video, which I'll try to keep concise and very easy to rebut and or respond to, I'm going to be addressing you in particular, Maestro Justicar, because I like where you were going with this. What I wanted to do with you was not a debate, not even so much a dialogue. It was an interview. I think I might have been coming off the wrong way before. And I think that my questions that I had for you were very malformed and ignorant of the complexities of what goes into the situation. But I think I understand more than this CNN official person did. She did address that stress absolutely plays in to a violent encounter between a police officer and an individual. And that video that you showed was a very good video for addressing what is happening in a very clear gun versus gun fight at closer range than I've ever seen before. But these are realities that police officers have to deal with. Now, the hard thing to discuss and to even ask questions of a knowledgeable person such as yourself about the use of not just deadly force, but very aggressive force. We're talking with the tasers, the mace, the batons, and so forth. What I want to talk to you about is how you feel about escalation. I agree, Mr. Justicar, that it is naive to think that a police officer would never make a decision in a moment to intentionally kill the civilian they're in an altercation with, because it just makes sense that that would be necessary, especially in the video you showed. What I've been trying to ask you, Mr. Justicar, is when do you escalate? You very quickly breezed over the skip however many steps, quote unquote. You have access to video, I know you do, where the escalation is obviously inappropriate. Now, in the case of Ferguson, it is very difficult to assess that, because it's very clear that there are extremely differing sides of what happened, and we don't have a video. We do know that Mr. Brown was unarmed. We do have claims that Mr. Brown was right up in the officer's face and punching the shit out of him. We do know that there were lies spread, and I'm not blaming anybody in particular for them, about the severity of those injuries. But there is some consistency about the distance in which the shots were fired. There is certainty in how many shots were fired, and then there is certainty that the officer has a gun and the civilian does not. That's not quite as easy to dissect. But in the interest of keeping you away from either saying, I don't have the facts of a situation, or presenting me with whatever you like in terms of video or evidence or anecdote to respond, I want to build you a situation, a thought experiment. And I would like you, if you would, to respond with what you know of an experience of being a police officer, how you would respond. Now, you have a suspect that is male. You know him. Not well, but I mean, you know that he has a record. That record, let's say, includes burglary. Not home invasion. Let's go with just breaking and entering. Let's also put in larceny. He's stolen something and destroyed property to get that something. Maybe you can throw in an assault charge in there just to make it interesting. So that you know this when you meet this guy. You are alone, and you are outside of your vehicle, and you've asked the guy to put his hands on the car. You're going to pat him down. Let's say you have reason to arrest him on suspicion of a crime. So right out the bat, I'm making this easy for you, really. You have a reason to arrest this suspect. But you are alone. You're informing the suspect that you want him to put his hands on the car, and he is showing obvious displeasure. He does not immediately put his hands on his car. He turns and faces you. He's not acting violent. He's not invading your personal space. He is refusing to follow your order. This is where there's a good time to pause and say what you would do. And here's where this response might get easier for you, because I'm going to continue down a line that may or may not exist in the narrative of your experience. But at first, you are alone. He is refusing to follow your command, and it's rather clear that he knows you're intending to arrest him. And he doesn't think you have a good reason. Now, you might be doing something right here that I don't see cops do, which is informing a guy you're under arrest before you ask him to do something like that. I'm also curious to see that if you have radioed and expect cars coming in the next few minutes, or you don't. Because I wonder how many of these situations escalate, even at this point where there's not violence, and you haven't called for anybody. And if you want to say anything about why you would or would not call for anybody, because it is a curiosity that is driving these questions, Maestro Justicar, not any sort of a belligerent debate or anything. I do not claim to know what you think is appropriate. And I'm only asking you. And I'm putting you in this situation. I know you're not a very large guy, so maybe this guy's larger than you. Now, I don't know exactly which your equipment was. I don't know if you commonly wore Kevlar vest or any of the stab-proof stuff, because I know knives kind of are okay with Kevlar, in that the Kevlar's not okay with the knife. But I'm assuming you have mace. I'm assuming you have a baton of, I don't care, nightstick or that really wussy thing that, I know it. I worry about police brutality, but when I see a police with a baton, I'm like, give the motherfucker a nightstick, please. Okay, let's not have this, oh, I'm not beating the guy. No, if you need something with which to whack a guy, to have the upper hand in a physical altercation that I guess doesn't necessitate the gun, I wouldn't want you to have this piss-and extendable baton that I know you could do some damage with if used properly. I would want you to have the nightstick. I'm just telling you. Let's say, I know you have the mace, okay? whichever mace canister it is, spray kind. I know how it is. Hurts a lot. Well, let's say you have the taser gun. Now, you're very close. I can understand a desire to not use the taser. I can understand you're not going to want to use the mace. And see, this is something I thought you would like to take advantage of again, is that with a very close quarters one-on-one with a, let's say the word belligerent, mouthy, not respecting commands guy, you've not used the words arrest yet. You're probably maintaining a distance. And the guy, let's kind of act out a posture, because it's very easy to say words and not show things. A distance of about 2.5 to 3 feet within arm's reach. The guy has his hands around here. He's gesturing. He's emphatic. But I wouldn't say he's threatening you yet. Now, I would imagine you would say, okay, put your hands on the car. I'm going to have to arrest you now. Now, this is a point where sometimes guys get shot, especially if they're black or if they're overly belligerent. Now, the black thing's too easy, and it's not my goal here. We're going to say this guy is of a similar skin tone with me. Let's say white. Let's say he's not even obviously white trash. You could even say he looks or smells drunk. It doesn't really matter. You know that you're going to arrest this guy on suspicion of larceny and burglary. You know he has a rap sheet. He's spent some time in jail, but he does not have a history of violent offense. He has not verbally threatened you. Now, if you were going to try to restrain him at this point, which, being a jiu-jitsu guy, I can see you doing, even if he's big, adjust of force, we're going to go move on to here. You're going to grab the arm, hands behind your back, trying to get the guy over the car. Now, I'd hope you'd have radioed by this point, because this is where shit gets dangerous, right? I'm just asking. Now, the suspect is not cooperating now physically. He's not swinging at you, but now given that you're kind of sidelong with the guy, we're going to be fair again and say you can't see his other hand. You don't know if he's reaching for something, and you do know that he's shoving off and he's refusing to be arrested. He's pushing. You know, this is resisting arrest. This is already another charge. He's pushing on you. Maybe he's kind of swatting away. Get off me, man. I didn't do nothing. That kind of talk. Now, I'm curious, do you step back and grab a gun here? Do you retreat and radio? Now, if you step back, does he run? If he runs, what do you say? Now, here's where we can go back a few steps and enter a little bit of a Ferguson mode. If you're still following with me, I know this video is a little long. Say that he now pushes away when you were attempting to do that kind of hammerlock. I'm going to put the cuffs on you now. Let's just, yeah, now you're going down, okay? So that show of force, physical, you're being arrested. You hope the guy just goes limp and takes it. Or, you know, does a little mouthy with the chest on the car thing. But no, let's say he's pushed back and he's grabbing at your hands. Say maybe his hands are getting around here where the gear is. I know some cops even carry their tasers high up in like kind of a clutch up here. Now say he's got a chance to grab at something. Now what do you do? And if I could even indulge one further, what say you if now he's swinging fists? Or what if he swings fists? Or what if he's reaching pockets? I would imagine by now this is the take back a few paces and aim the gun. Get on the ground or your day is done. Okay? See, this is how I'm imagining this goes fairly frequently. And I can understand where a one-on-one situation with a man who could potentially physically overpower you, is physically belligerent, he's resisting arrest. These are the questions we're going to ask specifically, so I make sure I'm not just going la too many tangents for you, Maestro Justicar. We've gone through about a minute or so, maybe less, of interaction that got physical quickly. I want to ask you, and I know that you're smart enough to have followed all this, Have you radioed anywhere here? Have you reached for anything besides a firearm here? Have you chosen to fire anywhere here? Have you used any physical force otherwise? Have you created distance? Has your suspect ran more often? Because I'm sure you've just been in this situation. You know, if you're a police officer for any number of years, this stuff happens more than people admit. See, this is where I'm sure people want to give cops a hard time, even without the racism angle. Guys like the Young Turks very often when it points straight to a kind of a power trip and an abuse of force. But I know that everything does occur on that individual level, and I would not put it above some minuscule measure of the cops to consciously overuse force and stuff. Now, the Ferguson thing, see, these were just questions about procedure. These are all open-ended, respond or don't respond, interject, replace, as you will. I'm just trying to be on the iPhone. You have complete control. But I want to talk to you now, and you can rebut or not rebut or whatever. This is all just hypothetical, trying to get at you, Meister Justicar, as a fan, in a dialogue. What I think happened in Ferguson, which of course, speculation. Which, yeah, I know. So, indulge me, if you would, Meister Justicar. From what I think happened, kind of going down the middle of the 3 or 4 reports I've heard, I want to say a cop is driving up to Mr. Brown. I think he knows who Mr. Brown is. I think he may have even seen Mr. Brown before or spoken to him. My experience as being kind of a walking street youth douche getting into trouble as a kid is that cops will just kind of see people like Mr. Brown and, hey, getting into any trouble, driving along. Hey, come here, come talk to me. Maybe he got out of the car, maybe he didn't. I don't think he did. But I think at some point, Travis Brown was right up next to the window, right here. And if you're the cop, you're down here. I think the cop reached and grabbed Mr. Brown at some point while he was communicating with him. Whether it was over these stolen cigars or whether it was just the cop kind of being harassy, whatever. At this point, it's whatever. Now, here's what's interesting. I think that Travis Brown probably did take offense to being grabbed, probably unjustly, by a cop who's just trying to kind of intimidate him. I know some cops, I'm not saying you or anybody you've ever known or anywhere, but I know from experience that there have been cops in existence that have done this. Okay? Grabs the kids, yanking him, not letting him go. I bet he tried to turn around and go, and the cop grabbed and pulled him in. At this point, I think Travis Brown made a mistake, and he started punching the officer. I think the officer let go, and I think he ran. I think the officer got out of his car, drew his weapon, and commanded Mr. Brown to stop. I don't know what happened here. But here's where I think there's a problem. I think Travis was shot at a distance that does not necessitate lethal force. I think from this position, the cop started firing when Travis Brown was facing away from him and at least a distance of 15 to 20 feet, if not more. I think at some point the cop winged him while shooting at him from when he was facing away. I think Travis Brown turned, and maybe in the heat of the moment, since I think the cop had been being punched in the face repeatedly and maybe verbally threatened, and there's 2 people there, and that cop is alone. I don't know what the visibility was. I don't even know if this happened at day or night, but I bet you Travis whirled on him. And I think there's a guy over here yelling and a person over here yelling. And whether he whirled to put his hands up or he whirled and the cop might have thought he had something, it all happened too fast. And I think as Travis Brown whirled, the cop just started unleashing. And he was dead. He was shot twice in the head. And I think 4 times. I think that first shot hit him in the back. Or the side, maybe. I think that Travis Brown was still standing. And at a distance where the officer couldn't quite tell what was going on. I think these last 5 shots happened at a distance exceeding 20 feet. And I think it all happened very fast. And I think that those shots went bang, 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 bang. And I can understand that. My personal experience with officers, as I told you one time before, and if you didn't watch the video, that's fine. If you don't watch this video, whatever, I think some people might like it. I hope you do too, though. The scariest instance I had with a police officer was in my own backyard of my home in Boca Raton, Florida. I understand why the police showed up to my location. I understand why they did what they did. And nothing happened to me, but I think that has everything to do with how I responded. Because I was probably in extreme danger of being shot to death. But I'm just going to explain this to you one more time. This video is long. I'm sorry, but this is one more. I'm in my backyard. My backyard does not have a fence. It is open, adjoined with the backyards of other houses, and it is abutting a canal. Across that canal, a lady had called on my friend and I. My friend is a total dork and an aficionado for knives and BB guns. He has a machete on his back that's about 4 feet long. In his hands is a Daisy air rifle, which from a distance may or may not look like a teeny little .22 rifle. But I'm pretty sure it's recognizable as a BB gun. But not to the lady who called, who reported this as a rifle, even though she saw us firing it and it making no fucking noise. I have the scarier thing. This is a, I think it's Marksman brand or something, cheap Walmart CO2 pistol, fires the 17mm BBs just like the Daisy does, but this looks like a .45 Parabellum. They come around the corner from both sides of my house. Two cops, a Latino man, smaller than me, and a black man, much larger than me, and even larger than my friend, who's about 6'2". And from behind us, a woman, and I think at least one other guy. We see them. They all have guns drawn. The large black man has one of the Remington pump-action shotguns, or whichever pump-action shotgun it is, I was the wrong kind. Cop has Glock 40. I don't even see what the other two behind me do. Drop what's in my hand, hands up, palms splayed. Hey guys, what can I do you for, officers? They're like, hold very, very still, hands where I can see them. Yes, sir. Brian's got a weapon strapped to him and has, like an idiot, not dropped his rifle, but just put it, you know, like where he's holding it, like, I cannot easily arm this, but it's in my hand. I don't know if you want to take this from me or not. Female cop rushes up, take that from him. Latino cop comes up from in front of me, takes a machete for him. They're like, hey, okay, I want you to get down on your knees, hands behind your head. I'm like, yes, sir. They're like, what are you guys doing here? You shooting ducks with that rifle? I'm like, no, sir, that is a Daisy air rifle BB gun, sir. And he's like, yeah, and he puts his hands on top of my hands on my head, and I'm like, just hold completely still. I'm scared shitless, but I'm white, and I'm at my own house, so I'm trying to keep calm. What are you doing here? This is my house, sir. You live here? Yes, sir. Does he live here? No, sir. All right. He's like, stand up, keep your hands behind your head. Yes, we're gonna cuff you guys up for your protection as well as ours. Yes, sir. All right, we're gonna put your hands behind your back. Yes, sir. I'm just following his motions. Puts the cuffs on real tight because he's a little bit of a hothead, but that's fine. I'm cooperating. All right, sit down. Yes, sir. All right, quick question. So were you guys shooting any ducks? No, sir. Was the ducks over there? Did you shoot them? No, sir. They're over there. They're asleep in the sun, sir. I better not have to call that game warden and hear you guys have been shooting ducks. No, sir. And at this point, they all walk off and start radioing. But they're, you know, within about 10 feet. Me and Brian are just going like, ooh, yeah. And it's like, hey, man. So yeah, I think we're good, man. It's cool. It's like, so what do you think? You think that lady called the cops? He's like, yeah. Man, dude, why'd she gotta be like that, man? I'm like, we're over here. She's got a fence and a large body of water between her and us. What a bitch, right? Yeah. But he's like, hey, cool on that bitch talk. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just stressed. Sit us up. Anything sharp in your pockets? No, sir. No needles, no knives? No, sir. Any drugs, paraphernalia? No, sir. My identification is in my back right pocket, sir. It is my wallet, no sharp objects, nothing. Pulls it out. Runs my stuff. They spend literally like 15 minutes trying to see if those ducks that were across the canal would wake up so he could confirm that we had not shot them. He came over and gave us the scared straight routine. You know, if you made any wrong move, we would have blew you two away. Yes, sir. We know. You came guns drawn and we were not facing you. Yeah, it would have been game over. Yeah, right, man. So, and you know, you could have been threatening somebody over there. I'm like, yeah, sir, I know. I'm sorry. This is an open area. BB could have gone way over there and gave somebody a welt. You know, Daisy can't freaking kill a dude at 100 yards. I would have had to pump that thing 50 times. The CO2 pistol would have had to been on the first shot and a perfect shot with this shitty, not even sights aligned, whatever. But he goes and informs me that they had taken the threat of him and I as two unknown people, obviously each with a firearm, they thought, coming in. Whether or not he told me the truth, I swear to you that the Latino cop, who was like on point through this whole thing, informed me that roughly 200 yards to my left, which would have been across my back left shoulder, about 10 or 12 houses down, I couldn't see him, but in the sunlight I would have been able to, that there had been a SWAT-trained officer with a sniper rifle and had me and my friend Brian in his scopes. And if he had ever been ordered to pull that trigger, we would not have known what hit us before we were fucking dead. Like, maybe I would have lived long enough to know I was dead, but it would have been game over. I know that's an appropriate response. So when I see something like that, where that was at least 5 officers, probably a lot more, that had been radioed in and prepared to engage us. And I know in things like traffic stops on a highway that's less easy to make happen, but if you're on a street, you know who you are addressing and you are going to basically kind of, you know, legally harass this black kid who's not alone, but you're alone. And of course it's speculation, but I don't see much other way it would have happened with this black kid attacking a white cop with his bare hands through a fucking open driver's side window. That would not have happened without the cop instigating contact, and I think you know that. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But the kid might have instigated physical response and then ran. Why didn't this cop radio, mace, drive away, create distance, protect himself from potential firing? He aggressed, he pursued, and he executed this kid. And at certain points in what must have been only about 25 seconds, could have been longer, could have been shorter, I think that this cop was in the wrong. I think he started the situation. I think he escalated the situation. And I think he overkilled, to use a term, the situation. What I want to see from this cop, I think, is first of all, I have a problem with these, we will investigate ourselves, like the big corporations will regulate themselves. The invisible hand of the blue shield will surely put this situation to right. My dick, okay? That's the one liberal dig I'm going to send at you. My dick. Independent investigation. I would see this cop fired. I don't know about never hired again. I'm not even so sure about criminal charges. A civil lawsuit, I should hope some activist lawyer would crawl right up his ass, going for a couple mil, and maybe even the precinct for money. But I don't necessarily see anything, especially without video proof, that's going to get this cop criminal charges. I would not want to hear that this cop was on duty in the same precinct anymore. I am pretty sure this situation will escalate because we now know this cop's name. We now know that this cop is under internal investigation. But the thing is, he might have the FBI sniffing around him. I think this cop's going to keep his badge. I think he's going to be exonerated. I think he's going to be put on desk duty with pay and full benefits. And I think there's going to be a big fucking deal made about it. It's going to be a fucking circus. I say, fire the cop, let him face his civil suits, and let him go move somewhere else and be a cop somewhere else. These things happen. That's just me trying to be real. You don't have to watch this whole video. You don't have to respond to this whole video. But I hope there was somewhere in here in these three kind of dialogue scenario thought experiments that might get me on the iPhone in front of the whiteboard. Have a nice day.